In the sprawling, fog-drenched city of Ravenbrook, the night air held an undercurrent of dread. Disappearances had become alarmingly frequent, and rumors of a sinister artist, known only as the Bone Sculptor, spread like wildfire. This elusive serial killer turned their victims into macabre sculptures, meticulously crafted from their bones and left in public places for all to see. Each new creation was more elaborate and grotesque than the last, taunting the authorities and terrifying the citizens. Detective Laura Kane, a seasoned investigator with the Ravenbrook Police Department, was tasked with leading the hunt for the Bone Sculptor. A woman of sharp intellect and unyielding resolve, Laura had faced her share of horrors, but nothing had prepared her for this. The first sculpture had been found in Ravenbrook Central Park, a grotesque figure posed as if in mid-dance, its skeletal limbs entwined in an eerie ballet. The craftsmanship was disturbingly beautiful, a perverse testament to the killer's skill. As Laura examined the scene, she felt a mix of awe and revulsion. The victim's bones were polished to a gleaming white, their joints held together by some unknown adhesive. The killer had taken great care to pose the figure, ensuring it would be discovered and admired for its ghastly artistry. A small plaque at the base of the sculpture bore a chilling inscription, "Beauty and Death." The investigation began in earnest. Laura and her team scoured missing persons reports, looking for any connection between the victims. The second sculpture appeared 2 weeks later, this time in front of the Ravenbrook Museum of Art. It depicted a skeletal figure reaching towards the sky, its bones arranged in a manner that suggested yearning or escape. The inscription read, "Freedom and Death." The pattern became clear. The Bone Sculptor was leaving a message, a twisted commentary on life and death. The victims were chosen carefully, each one disappearing without a trace, only to reappear as part of the Bone Sculptor's morbid collection. The city's fear grew with each new unveiling, and pressure mounted on Laura to solve the case. Laura's nights were filled with restless dreams, haunted by the faces of the victims and the chilling beauty of the sculptures. She pored over forensic reports, trying to piece together the identity of the Bone Sculptor. The killer's meticulous nature left little evidence, but Laura was determined. She began to notice subtle clues in the sculptures themselves, a unique knot in the adhesive, a particular way the bones were cleaned and polished. These details led her to believe that the Bone Sculptor had a background in medical or anatomical studies. One rainy evening, as Laura reviewed the case files in her dimly lit office, a breakthrough came in the form of an anonymous tip. The caller, whose voice was distorted, provided a location, an old, abandoned warehouse in the industrial district of Ravenbrook. The tipster claimed to have seen suspicious activity there, suggesting it might be the Bone Sculptor's lair. Laura, driven by a mix of desperation and determination, decided to investigate. She assembled a team and headed to the warehouse, the rain pelting down on their vehicles as they navigated the narrow, deserted streets. The warehouse loomed in the darkness, its windows broken and walls covered in graffiti. As they entered, the stench of decay hit them. Laura's flashlight cut through the gloom, revealing a series of makeshift workstations. Bones, both human and animal, were scattered across tables, along with various tools and chemicals. In the center of the room stood the next sculpture, partially completed, a twisted, nightmarish figure that seemed to writhe in agony. Laura's heart raced as she realized they were close. She signaled her team to spread out and search the area. The warehouse was a maze of rooms and corridors, each one more unsettling than the last. In a small, dimly lit room at the back of the warehouse, Laura found a series of photographs pinned to the wall. They depicted the sculptures in various stages of completion, along with detailed sketches and notes. Among the photographs was one that made Laura's blood run cold. It showed her, standing at the scene of the first sculpture, a grim expression on her face. Suddenly, a noise echoed through the warehouse, a faint shuffling, followed by a metallic clink. Laura drew her weapon and moved cautiously towards the source of the sound. She found herself in a narrow hallway, the walls lined with more bones and tools. At the end of the hall was a door, slightly ajar, with a dim light spilling out. Laura pushed the door open and stepped inside, her flashlight revealing a figure hunched over a table, working meticulously on the next sculpture. The figure turned slowly, revealing a face obscured by a surgical mask and goggles. Their eyes, cold and calculating, locked onto Laura's. "Detective Kane," the Bone Sculptor said, their voice calm and measured. "I've been expecting you." "Step away from the table and put your hands where I can see them," Laura commanded, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. The Bone Sculptor complied, raising their hands in a mockingly slow manner. "Do you appreciate my work, Detective? The beauty I've created from death?" Laura's grip tightened on her weapon. "You're sick. These are people, not your art." The Bone Sculptor tilted their head, a hint of amusement in their eyes. "Art is subjective, Detective. I see beauty where others see horror. But you see the truth, don't you? The fragility of life, the inevitability of death." Before Laura could respond, the Bone Sculptor lunged towards a nearby table, grabbing a scalpel. Laura fired, the bullet striking the sculptor's shoulder. They fell back, dropping the scalpel as they clutched their wound. Laura moved in, kicking the scalpel away and securing the sculptor with handcuffs. "It's over," she said, her voice firm. "You're done." The Bone Sculptor looked up at her, a twisted smile on their lips. "Perhaps, but my art will live on. You can't erase what I've created." As the authorities swarmed the warehouse, collecting evidence and securing the scene, Laura stood by the partially completed sculpture, a sense of grim satisfaction settling over her. The Bone Sculptor's reign of terror had come to an end, but the scars left on Ravenbrook would take time to heal. The city slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy, though the memory of the Bone Sculptor's macabre gallery lingered. The sculptures were dismantled, the bones returned to their rightful families for proper burial. Laura continued her work, but the case of the Bone Sculptor remained a haunting reminder of the darkness that could lurk behind even the most civilized facades. In the end, Laura found solace in the fact that she had stopped the Bone Sculptor's twisted artistry, protecting the people of Ravenbrook from further horror. And as she walked through the city's fog-shrouded streets, she remained vigilant, knowing that the fight against such darkness was never truly over.